Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the Blurrg. The Blurrg was a non sentient, two legged reptilian beast of burden found throughout the galaxy. Blurrgs were notably used by the Twi'lek's resistance and the Free Ryloth movement during the Clone Wars and the Imperial era. They were also correlated by moisture farmers crawl on Avara 7 that we get to see from The Mandalorian. So, one of the kind of first instances we do get to see is from the Clone Wars, like it had mentioned, kind of working with the Jedi, Anakin. Uh, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, kind of helping General Syndulla and his forces try to retake Ryloth from the Separatists and their movement there. Okay, so getting into what else we have here on Wikipedia. Blurgs were a two legged, non sentient reptilian species. They were used as beasts of burden on a number of worlds located across the galaxy, including Endor and Ryloth. Blurgs had two short arms that had two fingers with claws and a thick tail that helped them balance. The creatures possessed large mouths and many sharp teeth that could chew through most materials, including grasses and weeds. Though they were not strictly herbivores, they were known to consume other organisms, even members of their own kind. A hip joint that connected their stocky hind legs to their body was unusually high up on the Blurg's body. They stood around 2.5 to 3 meters tall. Blurgs were typically dark in coloration, ranging from dark blue, green, or gray to brown and black, but also featured a lighter molted pattern that could be shades of lighter blue or orange. Rebel leader Cham Syndulla's Blurrg had white markings on its head. Depending on the breed, Blurgs would live for around 35 to 40 standard years. Despite this awkward appearance, Blurgs could run very fast. During the Battle of Ryloth, Blurgs easily outpaced the all-terrain reconnaissance transports used by the Republic's Light Squadron, which could top out at about 75 kilometers per hour on flat terrain, as well as reportedly being able to match the velocity of Imperial speeders. Behavior wise, stoic and strong, Blurgs were used for everything from agricultural labor and transportation to war. They were very versatile for various kinds of service despite their poor intelligence. Blurgs were also strong enough to carry large loads. Blurgs were commonly found in agricultural setting, employed by farmers to move equipment or clear weeds and grass. Some blurgs could also have a hostile disposition when provoked. When one Twi'lek resistance member invited a clone to mount his blurg, the blurg roared and bucked as the clone unsuccessfully attempted to control it. Their viciousness, when provoked, made them useful in battle. Male blurgs were eaten by females after their mating process. And I believe that line comes to us from The Mandalorian. All right. During the Clone Wars, when the Confederacy of Independent Systems invaded the planet Ryloth, the Twi'lek resistance, led by Cham Syndulla, had blurgs in their care that they used as mounts. They set up hideouts inside of ruined separatist ships and had several stables for their blurg mounts inside. When Syndulla and the resistance met with the Battle of General Mace Windu and Grand Army of the Republic's Lightning Squadron, they agreed to work together to retake the capital city of Lesu. During the final offensive against separatist forces in Lesu, several of the freedom fighters rode blurgs that charged at droid troops, alongside the ATRTs utilized by the clone troopers. During the time of the mission to uh, Zagara, some blurgs were sold on the market of Zygara, and I'm sure I'm butchering the name. I remember watching a lot of the episodes a number of times, and they are fun to watch as they're kind of handled here. Um, During the Imperial era, Syndulla's Free Ryloth movement continued to use blurgs after the occupation of the Tan province. Syndulla and Numa rode blurgs on a raid on the Imperial troop transport alongside Syndulla's daughter Hera. If I can only speak here today. All right, eventually riding into Hera's ship, the Ghost, to escape Imperial reinforcements. By 9 ABY, the Ugnaught Krull had a small moisture farm on the planet Avara 7, where he kept several team blurgs that he used for transportation across the difficult terrain. When the bounty hunter Din Djarin traveled to Avara 7 after taking a job from the client, he met Krull, who helped him learn to ride before loaning him a blurg to use for travel. Later, when Din Djarin returned to Krull's farm to ask the Ugnaught for his accompany or for him to accompany him to Navarro on a mission, Krull agreed to join him when Djarin allowed him to bring his blurgs along. The creatures would sit in the cargo hold of the Razor Crest. During the mission, the blurgs were killed when the group was attacked by several native Reptivans. Later, Krull traveled with Grogu back to the Razor Crest on the remaining blurg, but was run down by a scout trooper who killed Krull and his blurg before taking Grogu back to the city. All right, so behind the scenes in the Star Wars canon, blurgs first appeared in the Liberty on Ryloth, an episode of the animated television series the Star Wars: The Clone Wars that first aired in 2009. In the Star Wars Legends continuity, blurgs first appeared in 1985 television film Ewoks: The Battle of Endor, and were based on the creature sketch for the 1980 film Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. They made their canonical live action debut in Chapter 1, The Mandalorian, the first episode of the Disney Plus television series, The Mandalorian's first season, which premiered on November 12th, 2019. However, their earlier Legends appearance in the Battle of Endor had been in live action, or had also been in live action. Okay, so that means that the stats that we have here, and this is one of the things I was really kind of trying to figure out, are the stats that we're really looking at originally from West End Games or Wizards of the Coast. So you could take it one way or the other, and it really doesn't matter because it's all been done in the D6 when we present them here in a minute. But I know some of these animals that we get are coming from some of the legends and all that stuff. This is a creature directly from George Lucas because, I mean, as it's noted here, um, going all the way back to the Ewoks Battle for Endor, that was one of his made for TV movies that he had done back in 85. Um, you can kind of go back and forth how good or bad those were. At the time, I was excited because, I mean, unlike today, we really have to look at it at the point of it was rare to get the Star Wars because, we were just back in 85, just barely starting to get VHS tapes. So you saw the movie and that's all you got out of it. Um, and it's kind of lost in translation today where, we have streaming services and all that stuff. So we took what we could get when we were back then and just enjoying any extra bit of Star Wars we could get. Being a young lad at the time, it was quite a bit of fun to be able to see more Star Wars stuff and going from there. All right, so let's get on over to our stats and see what we have here today. All right, so looking at the blurg, and this is the picture that we actually have in the book. So we have two blurgs. So this would have been from the Battle of Endor. Yeah. Uh, so this is a plains herd animal. This is on Endor. Let's see, we have a dexterity of 1d plus 2, a perception of 1, and a hide of 2d plus 1, and a search of 2d plus 2. They do have a fairly good strength at 4d plus 2, a stamina of 5d plus 1, so the ability to keep that speed and being used as a beast of burden. They can go for quite a while. We do have a bite. Blurgs can bite for their strength, rating, and damage. Running, Blurgs can increase their running move score to 10 for short periods of time. Otherwise, typically they're moving at a 6, which is almost or just a little bit above half of what our standard move speed is. All right, these are going to be large, and they do have an orderness of 2D. Now, just taking it from there, like I said, this is the iconic look of them from um, Battle of Endor Newok's story. So, really, if we look at it today, I don't think we really have all that much more that would be added to it. We might say that they might move a little bit faster in what we get to see out of the Mandalorian compared to what we saw back then, especially with what we were able to see um, in the Clone Wars. So the running speed would probably have to kind of go up if we're saying that they're able to maintain a speed of 75 kilometers an hour. And not having the stats of that offhand, I really couldn't tell you what an ATRT is doing, which I probably should have thought of ahead of time. So when we do look at these stats, and if you have that book, you might want to think about that as something that you might want to just kind of cross off and pencil in there, that they are being represented as moving much faster than what they originally were. So just taking it from that point. With that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's always wonderful having you here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.